Hey everybody, picked up something kind of cool at the Red Power Roundup this year. I got a Cub Cadet 1512. It's a diesel model Cub Cadet, which comes with a 3-cylinder Kubota liquid-cooled engine. And they're a pretty cool tractor. They're very good on fuel, and they're just cool because they're a diesel and kind of rare. They do have some drawbacks, one of which being the starter. It's a direct drive starter, and it doesn't quite have enough oomph to turn the engine fast enough to start it with the small lawn and garden type batteries. There is an upgrade you can do by putting the more modern gear reduction starter used on newer Kubota engines. It helps out a lot, it spins it a lot faster, helps it start quicker. So I'm gonna do this upgrade to my little tractor. Let's see how it's done. You can see the new tractor here. It's a Cub Cadet 1512 diesel. I've got the side panel removed and the hood up already. But when we look down here underneath the muffler, you see this direct drive starter here. This is the problem child here that draws a lot of power and doesn't put out a lot of rotating power. So we're going to upgrade and swap it with this newer gear reduction dip and denso style starter. There's a couple modifications that need to be done to have this work properly, and I'll show you how to do them. So here's a view from the other side. What needs to be done first is to remove all 4 of these engine mount bolts, 2 on each side, and that'll give us enough room to lift the engine as high as we can to remove the bottom one on the other side. When we've got these 2 removed, we can lift the engine and remove this upper engine mount bracket, and we'll have to drill a hole to make clearance for a cable bolt. So we've got all 4 mounts loose, maybe not all the way removed, but loose with the nuts off. And now we've got a floor jack, our trusty Harbor Freight floor jacks underneath there with the wood block. We're going to jack up the engine assembly as high as we can without having to disconnect anything else. That's going to give us enough room that we can unbolt this bracket from the back side. It's going to be a little tight, and this is probably one of the hardest parts of this swap. So we got our fans pretty tight against the top shroud. We've got as much room as we can get. We can get to the 2 top bolts pretty easily with a socket and extension. Unfortunately, the bottom bolts are where it gets a little tricky. We'll probably have to come up from underneath with a regular wrench. See if we can make it work. Looks like I'm going to have to take the starter bolt off first before I get to the bottom one. So I'm going to go ahead and take the upper starter bolt out. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get those bottom 2 mount bolts out, but we'll work on that in a minute. Let's see if I can get this off. But one of the things people often do will take a chisel and a hammer to this nose cone and shatter it, and it makes getting the old starter off a lot easier. I'm going to try not to do that. I'd like to get it all off in one piece and keep it around as a spare, but we'll see if we can get it done. So we got the wires off, we got the upper and lower starter bolt out. Now it looks like someone has taken a cutting torch to mine and already notched this out to make it easier. Well, that's unfortunate. So I've got the two starters side by side, the direct drive on the right and the gear reduction on the left. You can see the differences. The one on the left is a little bit bigger, but according to everything everyone else has already done, it does fit, even though it will be a little tight. But this right here will have a clearance issue right in this region right here. So we're going to have to drill a hole once we test fit to see how it fits. So I have the starter mocked up in position, and you can see that there's a gap here on the bottom. The starter's not fully seated because of this spot right here. I'm going to go ahead and mark this with a scribe to mark the location, and I'm going to drill with a hole saw an 1¼ inch hole right there to make clearance for that stud. So you can see this 16mm bolt way down in there, that 16mm headed bolt that needs to come out. It's a little tough. I've been getting it maybe 1/8 of a turn at a time with a wrench from the top and the bottom. It's slow going, but it's coming. Also, you've got the other one. You can see it right there. That one's also slow going, but it's coming, and as soon as I get those two the rest of the way out, I'll be able to pull that bottom engine mount off and drill a hole in it. I'll be able to put it back on. But it's slow going to get this piece off. But you can use a 90-degree angle drill in there, from what I've been told, but I don't have enough room for my 90-degree drill to do that. We'll see. Finally. So after drilling with the hole saw, we've got our 1¼ inch hole in here now. You can see it took away kind of a lot of meat from mine in particular, because someone has cut this one out with a torch in the past. It feels pretty solid. I think it won't be an issue for this particular one, but you know, if yours hasn't been torched like mine has, it'll still have this section filled in with steel, plenty of structure. Now we just got to put this thing back in. I can't say it sounds like a fun job, but as long as I can get the two lower bolts started. We got the motor mount put back in. These screws are pretty hard to get to, but I maneuvered the engine a little bit with the pry bar, side to side, up and down. We were able to get them all back in, and actually that torched cutout made the front bolts a little bit easier. But we managed to get it done. Got the hole in there where it's supposed to be. Got the engine set back down on the lower mounts, and now we're going to put the upper rubbers back on, tighten those down, and get the starter put in place. Took a little bit of fine tuning. This nut was just a little bit closer to the edge than I liked. Wallered out my 1¼ inch hole just a little bit more, and I ended up routing it a little bit differently. I think stock it went over and I went under, and then of course we plug in our activation wire there, make sure nothing's touching any metal. We're close, but we're not touching metal. So our battery cable's hooked up. Let's give this a shot. Oh, so much better. So this is a 1986 Cub Cadet 1512 diesel. It's got a 15 horsepower 3-cylinder liquid-cooled Kubota. It's a model D600. It's the same basic design that the International Harvester Company sold at their dealerships, painted red, but this particular one was built a year after International Harvester broke apart and sold off the agricultural division. This was actually built by MTD, or Cub Cadet Corporation, as they called the Cub Cadet line, because they were still running it as an independent division, keeping the same quality and design that International, although they were experimenting with some other neat stuff, different engines such as this Kubota diesel. It was offered painted red, but they were built as a MTD. Pretty cool tractor. Let's fire it up and take it for a drive.